You are listening to a Pod Bros exclusive.
All right, boys and girls, we're live, a brand new episode of Take Aim Outdoor podcast, and super excited to have on the phone again this guy, Jake Latendresse from Latendresse Media. Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Brandon. Thank you for having me, man.
Super excited to have you and have you back on the show and just talk. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today is Jake, in my opinion, for years, and I've told Jake this before, I met him for years, I looked at Jake as one of the best role models in the industry, and the whole outdoor industry right now is kind of, I'll just say it, debacle. It's kind of, there's guys on this side of the fence and that side, and there's been some crazy stuff happen in the last couple of weeks that we're going to mention, but Jake is so level-headed and so articulate, speaks well. Jake was the right guy to have on the show for this podcast to kind of go over stuff. But, Jake, where do we start? And is there anything you want to kind of start with yourself before we kind of dive into this big old thing?
Well, it's difficult to say where we start other than, we start at the top. And I think some of the points you bring up, this is a really valuable interview and podcast because, there are a lot of people going different directions right now, even though we're all in the same tribe. And everyone's got their valid personal reasons as to go the direction that they want to. And there's a lot of mind changing. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that, I think we all know where we're going with this conversation. And let's just go there. It's, it really, the hottest topic right now is the Under Armour / Bowmars incident. And as I was saying, I would be the first one to admit to myself and to everyone else out there, just being honest, is that I jumped the gun. I have some personal ties to Josh Bowmars. I don't know him super well, but we have gotten to know each other over the past several months, really since this past turkey season. We shared a camp together, and they're very nice people and they're very smart people, and they've been doing, we're all trying to make a living, or some of us that are in this professionally are trying to make a living. So, we do things to self-promote, and I think that's really the topic and where all this is going in the industry, self-promotion and the division between the heritage and the industry itself. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Totally. And it is such a big nest of what's happened because the hunting industry as a whole is in a new realm, Jake. And I know we've kind of talked about this, but we're in this realm where there's people that are promoting the industry based on this new age of social media and this new age of hunters coming up, these 20-something-year-olds that have, a gift. They're really good at social media. And that social media is a double-edged sword for all of us in the hunting industry. And I think we just got to take into account that when we use that, great choice or poor choice, it doesn't go away. Somebody's going to screenshot it. Somebody's going to make a comment. Again, it's just a nest egg. There's so much stuff. So, Jake, where do we start? Do we start with, just, I guess, let's link the Bowmars and the social media and let's go from there because that's really what started this.
Yeah, let's just go straight to one word, and that's respect, because I think it has a multitude of facets to it that, that create this connectivity that we all have in the industry. As hunters and fishermen alike. I mean, hunters are fishermen and fishermen are hunters. And so, we have to combine those two activities. And I think that the word respect goes from respecting our heritage, respecting the activity, then you link that to respecting the animal, and the game itself, because none of us are bigger than this. Yet at the same time, the respect should extend out to each other as well, because, going back to the Under Armour and Bowmar incident, it wasn't like Under Armour didn't respect the Bowmars, and it wasn't like the Bowmars didn't respect Under Armour. It was an incidental, accidental, unintentional situation that occurred from a promotional perspective that imploded within ourselves. And the irony is that anti-hunters were the ones really crying about it. And what that did was it created some turmoil and some judgmental decision-making processes between, amongst ourselves. And then we found ourselves split right down the middle, 50-50, just like the election, just like any kind of political, item that comes up. Seems like we're a body of people that's just split right down the middle. And it made me think, man, I'm telling you right now, I shed tears over it because I was hurt by the fact that, some people that I know were hurt by it. Yet at the same time, a company that was trying to make the right decisions, and ultimately probably, they made the right decision. Perhaps the way it was handled wasn't exactly the way it was supposed to be, but man, there was a lot of pressure. There was pressure coming from all over the world. And as you said, channeled through social media, which made it an immediate and necessary situation for a lot of people. And so some decisions were made, it went viral, and here we are. We're talking, it's a mess. But I still think if everyone will focus on the word respect, in all of its facets, then we can all find common denominators to keep us connected, opposed to keeping us divided.
Yeah, I agree, Jake. And I think, we can talk about this in a manner that isn't just hastily thrown out on social media. And that's why I like having a podcast and having a conversation, because things get mistyped and things get misconstrued when we post a blog or like many people are doing, or signing up for change.org to, change Under Armour's decision. Mm-hmm. That's not what I want to be a part of, and it's not going to work. We got to remember, Under Armour is a huge company. They have done wonderful things for the hunting industry. They're publicly held company. It's publicly traded. Like you said, Jake, that's a lot of pressure, and I don't think us as Americans understand probably the influence of like what Europe had to do with its decision. Europe is full of companies like Under Armour, and they're full of people that wear Under Armour, and they're full of people that don't hunt. Majority of Europe does not hunt. They don't understand it. So,
they can't.
I guess
they don't have the rights to hunt.
Right. They don't have the grounds to walk like we do. They don't, and that's been Europe's heritage. You had to be royalty to hunt even hundreds of years ago. So they don't understand, and, it's so sticky. But I guess let's start on the error side of both, Jake. Let's start with the Bowmars and maybe how the respect for the animal after the kill wasn't put out there that, correctly, or what I think is correctly. And, with that being said, we're just going to throw it out there that we know that, the Bowmars, that was a legal hunt. Everything went down absolutely perfectly. There was nothing wrong with the hunt. Everything was licensed. It was legal to use a spear. Whether you like a spear or not, it's legal in Alberta. So let's get that out of the way and not even discuss it from this point on. But Jake, what do you think of the photos that were put out and the video that was put out, and what started all this?
Well, really in trying to make sure that, I don't get tied into something that I know little about, okay, other than in terms of facts. And I don't spend time with the Bowmars. I don't really know anyone, in the business side of Under Armour. So it's difficult for me to put myself in their shoes, but it's difficult for me to try to draw out, reasoning or good decision making or any of that, because there's so many factors that go into these things, including a hunt. I mean, you react, and I'm going to try to generalize this, Brandon, because I think it's probably the safer way to go, and probably the most, correct way to go, because at the end of the day, instead of pointing fingers at people, we can simply generalize these facts, because the most important thing that comes out of this is that we all learn from it. And if we all learn from it, then we become better as people, we become better as hunters and fishermen, and we become better at the business side of things, because let's face it, from a historical perspective, in the history of business, we're still very primitive and very young, and we're all still learning, because it hasn't really been around that long. I mean, it was just, 30 years ago that, we were still nailing 2x4s up in forks of trees to build tree stands. And we were climbing up 2x4, blocks as steps. So we're really young, and all these mistakes come from being naive and not understanding, what the repercussions are and all that stuff. So let me say that in general, I think it's really important for all of us, particularly in the realm of social media, because it can get out of hand so quickly, you can't take it back, is that we just have to be able to, we just have to respect, like we talked about earlier, respect the activity as a game or a sport or an activity, whatever you want to call it, because we didn't develop it. So, this has been going on for eons, and it has turned into a sport and an activity because it's a lot of people do it, and it's something that we all cherish and love to do. And there's some competitiveness involved as well. And sometimes I think that competitiveness makes us, particularly when you link that to business, makes that, it changes the dynamics of it, because we do things to help self-promote. I'm guilty of it. I'll be the first one to admit I have made mistakes. I have regretted them. I wish sometimes I could just go back and just be just sit in my tree by myself and not even worry about the business side of it. But this is what I do. And so if we respect the game, we respect the pressure that could come from, an accidental, unintentional incident, and we respect, the big picture and do things the right way, so that it's politically correct, even if we don't want to. I mean, you hear it all the time. Well, I should be able to speak my mind. I should be able to post whatever I want. I'm not going to cave in to the anti-hunters. And that's fine. And I totally agree with that sentiment and that philosophy. Yet at the same time, the problem is that when one person does something, particularly a public figure in our industry, when they make a mistake, it affects so many people, and there's nothing more, demonstrative or illustrative of that than what just happened, in the incident that we're talking about. I mean, it just affects so many people in so many different ways, and so, the respect for it all, again, to me, is where it all starts and ends. If we can control that and, keep our thoughts and our own personal beliefs, in terms of, knowing something's going to get out of hand to ourselves and within our own community, then we're way better off, because there's too many landmines out there to step on and have something implode just like it did in the incident that we're talking about.
That's true, and it has. And, from that situation, well, I just want to talk about us as a hunting community, Jake. From that situation, we have people that are, lighting up and burning Under Armour clothes. We have people sending messages to Cameron Haynes to step down from Under Armour and jeopardize his life and his livelihood. I get it. I'm all for, always protecting a hunter that did something legally. This is a situation that there isn't a right answer, but I think there's an answer that we can just take from the outcome of this, and that is just on both sides. Even if you're racing in this competitive super competitive world of hunting in this industry to, just slow down just a touch and just think about, exactly what you want to do, maybe to get a couple more likes, but is it worth it to jeopardize and give one anti something to point the finger at? And I think that's what we got to look at is I don't want that ever. I may want 1,000 likes. I could care less if I get it, but I mean, yeah, that's a cool goal, but I'd rather have 50 likes and never have one anti-hunter mad at me, or not mad at me, but mad at me as a hunter in the hunting community, if that makes sense, Jake.
Using you as leverage to get their political point across to the rest of the world, and they use you as a tool, and it's a knife, and or a sword, and it's got double edges on it, and it hurts when it goes in, and it bleeds, and so you can't really stop the bleeding immediately because we usually get stuck in a vein. And so we have to prevent from getting stuck. And that the only way we can do that is to be mindful of what we present out there to the world, because ultimately it's going to affect us negatively if we're not careful. I have a really great, it's not my idea, but it's something that, that occurred to me yesterday. I had two people send me, a young lady and a young man, send me one photo and one video that they were going to post on their Instagram pages. And I was honored because they sent them to me asking me, the question was, do you think it will be okay if I post this on my Instagram page? And I was floored, because the reason that happened is because of this whole incident, all the politics that's going on. They were thinking. This whole thing made them think about what they were doing, how they were going to do it, and how it was going to affect everyone else, and whether they were going to get hammered for it. And to be honest with you, Brandon, I think that is one of the most positive residuals coming out of this entire incident, is that it's making people think. And what does that tell us? That tells us that we're growing the right direction, and there are good people out there that want to make sure that they represent our entire community and our entire culture appropriately. And I honestly think that's the only way that we're going to be able to stand up for ourselves, is to do things like that. So my point would be, people that post all the time, people that have 100,000 followers and they get 2,000 likes every time they post something. If something is questionable, even if you think it might be questionable at all, send it to someone you trust, and someone that cares about you and the entire hunting community. And just ask them, what do you think about this post? You think I'm going to get hammered for it? And put it out there, because it's not like you're going to get more likes tomorrow. If you post something, wait 24 hours to post it, than it is if you just hurry up and post that photo, like as soon as you take it. That's where these problems occur. And these incidences occur is when there's hasty decisions, knee-jerk reactions, and people don't think about what they're putting out there. So again, my recommendation is for people to share it with friends first, privately, ask them what they think, and then if there's some negativity going on, or if your friend tells you, man, I wouldn't post that, just don't do it, man. It's not worth it.
It's funny, the correlation, Jake, between us using a hammer, nail, and 2x4s to build tree stands to us trying to navigate through this new generation of this social media that we don't have a guideline for. We don't have details. We don't have directions. We don't have instructions. We are going through this every day and building the instructions for the next 10 years. We don't have anything to say, that may come across as wrong. And, I think it's a big, again, I think it comes to that competitive edge that maybe if we took a step back, looked at it, and just waited a second, that maybe our gut instinct would tell us that's not the right direction to go. But I think us having it on our phones, connected to our hips, seconds after we harvest an animal or kill an animal on a hunt, that you can put it out there. And a slippery road. I don't have an answer. It's just that's what we're dealing with right now, and how do we navigate through it?
And the irony there too, Brandon, is that one guy could post something that's completely offensive to the other world, the other side of the fence, and never get one negative response to it. And then 10 minutes later, somebody, 10 states over on a map could post the same thing and completely destroy everything they tried to build personally and hurt other people along the way unintentionally. So it's unpredictable because you don't know who's watching. You don't know how many people are watching. You don't know who's watching. You don't know how it's going to affect certain people. So again, this is one of those things where we're all walking on thin ice. And I know there are people out there that say, who cares? Who cares what these people think? Well, I mean, and I may get hammered for this, but I'm going to say it. I care. I care about my friends that are sponsored by Under Armour. I care about hunters that do things that hunt with spears and do it in the spirit, in good spirit and in positive light. And, I've had the video, probably my most popular video thus far was a bear hunt that I filmed up on Kodiak, and we celebrated. I mean, there's an emotional attachment to an accomplishment personally that occurs when you do something unique or very difficult or challenging or even, life-threatening. And when that happens, you get overwhelmed with all these emotional, reactions that you can't help. I mean, some people cry. Some people walk quietly up to their deer and kneel down on it, put their hand on it, and thank that deer for, sacrificing its life for that experience. Some people take photos. Some people shoot videos. Some people, react in a way that can be misconstrued because it looks like they're actually celebrating over something. Yet at the same time, when you boil all that down and take the oil out of it and the core out of it, we all react for the same reasons, because we're happy and we feel like we accomplished something. And it really does come from respect for what we're doing, because it's a difficult game and it's challenging. So, I think we just have to be mindful about how we react and how we portray that.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think, we texted a little bit last week about this, Jake, and you said some stuff and I said some stuff, and I was still up in the air of how I thought about this. And the more I look at it, and again, it's just trying to dive a little deeper. And, guys are hating on the Bowmars, for using a spear. I don't want, not my means of hunting, but you know what? Josh has feelings. His wife has feelings. I'm sure this is devastating. On the flip side of things, Under Armour doesn't want to see their clothes burned. I don't want to see that. I know that at one point, Under Armour could say, you know what? The sales have taken a hit. We don't have money for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation to give to charity this year. So all this comes back around, and I don't think us as a group of hunters, in the last week, all I saw was emotion, and I haven't seen a thought process. And I just would like all of us to think about everything that happens with that couple, the Bowmars, and the flip side of what Under Armour has done for the hunting community, getting little kids involved, wanting to be a hunt athlete. It all is together. There isn't anybody to blame, and we got to stick together and think about it in a very positive manner. And kind of how we started this, Jake, this was about being positive, and the outcome of this, because of this, I think is going to be positive for all of us in the way we handle ourselves on social media.
I totally agree. I think this, when the dust settles, which is already starting to, when it all settles, good will come out of this again, because, we learn from our mistakes, and, mostly we build our repertoire of skills through mistakes, making mistakes and learning from them. And I think that's what we're doing now. And, I had a conversation with someone the other day, a dear friend of mine, about this. And as our conversation, led into a certain direction, I started thinking about this, like, this reminds me of somewhat like racism, where we are our own people. Let's isolate hunters from fishermen just for a moment, because we're the ones that get scrutinized the most. And as hunters, we're a tribe, we're a family, we're a group of people, we're essentially a race within the human race. And when people start coming after us because of what we do and what we believe in, we react just like some of the reactions that we see on network news, where people are burning down their towns and looting and shooting each other. I mean, we kind of reacted the same way, and I hope this doesn't get misconstrued again or misunderstood, because but if you back up and look at what happened throughout social media in the hunting community, it's exactly what happened. I mean, we didn't go out and burn houses down in cities and stand in front of traffic lights stopping traffic, but we reacted. We were just as angry, and we reacted in a way that was very similar, parallel to that. And when I thought about that, I thought, man, I mean, if everyone could stop and just think about that for a second, maybe we just need to stop, call time out, which I know is impossible. Just call time out, rethink this, and come together again, instead of splitting the Red Sea and going different ways. I mean, it almost seemed ridiculous to how we all reacted. And I'll be the first one to admit I took sides initially, and then as I gained more information and thought about it more, and thought about a lot of my friends that were involved, I just became more neutralized in the situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the what has to happen. And there isn't, like we kind of started this conversation, there doesn't necessarily have to be something wrong. This was a snowball effect, unfortunately, and it does not mean the Bowmars are wrong, doesn't mean Under Armour's wrong. And like we said, the other side of this is hopefully us as a hunting community, we just come out better, and that's where I want to go from there.
Exactly. I totally agree, Brandon. I mean, it's important. Just learning, the most important thing is that we all learn from this, move on in a positive direction, and just try to keep our chins up and understand that because of social media, we represent each other, and we represent an entire community of people that care about what we do. And if we can move forward with that in mind, I think we're going to be just fine, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we got the daily drama dish of the past week out, Jake, what is going on in the world of Latendresse Media?
Well, ironically, I'm working on a project, and have been for a while, with some very talented producers, and we've got a documentary series coming out that actually, and again, ironically, touches on what we're talking about today somewhat. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag just yet, because we're almost done with the first episode, but it's not quite finished yet. But the documentary series, and I don't know what platform it's going to exist on just yet, but it's a documentary series about the human side of hunters and fishermen, and concepts in the hunting community. And it's about perspective, and it's about respect, and it's about what happens. There's so many people that go online and bash, say, a high-profile hunter or a high-profile fisherman for things that they say or do within ourselves. And my purpose is to help, neutralize that by just, what is it we always hear? Well, you said this about me, but you don't even know me. And you heard something about me, but how do you know that's the truth? Because, again, you don't even know me. So my purpose is to show the world, at least the world we live in the hunting community, that everyone has another side. And I think when people see the other side of people that they don't know, then something good can come out of it. So that's about all I can really say about it. But hopefully it's going to be connected to, all these things that we're talking about, and it's going to help present our community in good light and in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds interesting. I love that concept, and I love that potentially it's going to be, great role models for the sport, and it definitely shows the human side of all these individuals, which I think is wonderful. And Jake, do you have is there a timeline and so to speak, and do you know how many individuals are going to be on this documentary series?
Well, I mean, it's endless. I mean, we have, conceptually, we've already got, 24 subject matters to document, and we have completed the field production for 2 different documentaries, and one is in post-production, and we're about 75% completed. So once we get it finished, then we're going to have to find, a place to live and how we're going to present, where we're going to present it, and all that, the business side of things. So I'm guessing probably within the next 2 to 4 weeks that we're going to launch it, and hopefully, everyone's going to see the first one, understand what direction we're going, and they'll be excited about the rest to come. I don't know how many episodes we're going to have. The beauty of online platforming is that we don't have rules. We don't have 13 episodes and 13 reruns that we have to, the format that we have to follow with television. So, we're just trying to keep an open mind about it and do what we can, because we're all busy as well with other projects, and just see how it rolls itself out.
Exactly. I'm excited for that, Jake, and please let me know when it comes out, and I'll definitely make sure I share it on all the Take Aim social media as well, and we'll get it out to everybody for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. We're really excited about it, especially the first one. I think it's, there's some emotional attachment that everyone can relate to, and I'm just excited to see how everyone reacts.
Oh, absolutely. I am too, and I have a good feeling it's going to be pretty epic. I think it's going to be, really, Jake, after what just happened, is perfect timing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like all these things are coming together at the right time, and I certainly don't want to use someone else's, heartaches as a catalyst to catapult anything. Yet at the same time, perhaps sometimes when something goes wrong, other things are intended to be there to help support the situation and turn a lemon into lemonade.
No, you're exactly right, and I didn't mean that to gain any kind of speed off of somebody's heartache. I just meant it as a good time for all of us to celebrate good people, good individuals, and in the spirit of why we're hunters.
You bet. Yeah. And I wasn't going that direction with you. I just wanted to make that clear.
No, I know. I'm just making sure everybody knows where I was coming from with that. I just think it's something to celebrate for you, and a great job you guys have done. So, Jake, where can everybody find you at? And Instagram, Facebook, let us know, and your website.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Jake Latendresse, Latendresse, and on Instagram, Latendresse Media Collective, or Jake_Latendresse.
Absolutely. And Jake, this was a interesting episode because there's so much at stake when this stuff happens in the hunting community. So I wanted to say thanks to you for stepping up and just voicing your opinion. And hopefully we all go down the right road going further as a group of hunters and outdoorsmen in general. So thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Thank you for talking to me about it. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And boys and girls, as you know, the show will be out every Tuesday, podbros.com, outdoorpodcastchannel.com, iTunes, and we'll see you guys down the road next week.